I have a good example of loser's queue. I had a teammate ask in Champ Select if this was loser's queue. He then proceeds to flame every mistake everyone on the team made, making everyone spend more time in chat and less focus on the game. Take a wild guess, we won that game. Loser's queue is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yep. So one thing I'll definitely tell you is a lot of times when you're in loser's queue, the loser is you. And the reason that is because your mentality will actively drag down your success. If you believe you're in loser's queue and believe you can't win and feel bad about the game and bad about your teammates, you are much more likely to actually lose the game. And so it's very easy to get into a situation where you're tilted, you're upset, and your mental justification for it is, I'm in loser's queue, Riot is screwing me over. And the reality is you're just not playing well. And you're not letting your team play well because you might be flaming them for being in loser's queue. And the result, of course, is that you're going to lose a lot of games. A really good way to get out of loser's queue is that if you ever lose 2 games in a row, stop. You're done. You're not allowed to play League anymore that night. You lost 2 games in a row and you're a little upset, stop. Nope, League's done. Go play Balatro. Go play Path of Exile. Go play Overwatch. Play something else. You can't play League anymore. You lost 2 games in a row. It's illegal now. And I guarantee you, you will be in loser's queue less. And you'll be in loser's queue less, and you will climb faster in the long run. If you're the type of person who gets tilted. What you're saying is I can only blame myself. Oh no, you can blame your teammates. Sometimes when you lose a game, it's because your teammates are crazy, right? Like, but if you're losing a lot of games in a row, often the reason for that is because you're tilted. Now, of course, everybody has strings of bad luck, 100%. But loser's queue is often a mental state. I know autofill is important for queue timers, but why does it feel like every time I win, I specifically get an autofill jungler the next game? That is Riot putting you in loser's queue. So when you win, we detect how much fun you had playing that game. And if you had too much fun, we put you in loser's queue to make sure the fun is distributed to other players. Because everybody knows fun is a zero-sum game. Loser's queue confirmed. Hey August, why does Riot put more and more responsibility into the jungle role, like the new monster next season, making jungle diff compared to other roles more frustrating for everyone, including junglers themselves? I don't know. I probably can't speak to that. I can't really speak to that. I'd say at the end of the day, there's a question. If you're asking that question, I think there's another question of, like, let's abstract this a bit. Is Smite good for the game? On one hand, Smite gives junglers complete control over objectives, right? Can't take an objective without your jungler there, or you'll get smited, right? On the other hand, it gives junglers complete control over objectives, which can be pretty frustrating if you're running into jungle diff. Both for the jungler's teammates and for the jungler themselves, potentially. And so, yeah. It's kind of a question of, like, how much responsibility should junglers have? What is the optimal amount for both them and their teammates? Oh no. Uh-oh. What? How am I supposed to dodge that? Riot! All that said, I don't know how it's implemented, so I couldn't tell you. But, like, I'm not personally convinced that, like, adding a new jungle objective actually increases the responsibility of the jungler. And what I mean by that is, like, the jungler is already responsible for the act of taking objectives, right? And so, like, as an example right now, it's like, there's Rift Herald and Dragon. I would not necessarily agree that adding Rift Herald, like, doubled jungler responsibilities, because at the end of the day, you can only take one thing at a time, right? So, a new objective doesn't necessarily mean that, oh god, responsibilities are massively increased. When we get a new tank jungler, instead of making a new tank jungler, I would argue perhaps we should make current tanks better in the jungle if we need them, right? Like, there's a lot of tanks who could legitimately jungle if we buffed them there. Scion, Maokai, Nautilus, things like that. Like, there's a lot of tanks in the game who, if we let them jungle, could jungle. There's a different question, though, of, like, do we actually want them jungling? One of the problems with tanks in the jungle, surprise, surprise, is that pro players really like them. And so oftentimes when a tank is viable in the jungle, and they're good enough to be played in pro, you'll often have to nerf them, because pros really, really like tank junglers if they're viable. Why care so much about pro play? Because of cash and money. I know a lot of people are very quick to be like anything they don't like. It's like, it's because money, right? We tend to think about things more about how do you make lots of players engaged and happy, which then of course the end result of that is things like money. And so one of the reasons pro play matters so much is because the vast majority of League of Legends play, a large portion of League of Legends players watch and care about pro play. So pro play is not something off to the side. Pro play is very, very integrated into the League of Legends experience for a lot of players. Similar to how let's say you play basketball in high school. There's a lot of people who play basketball in high school and also happen to like watching professional basketball, right? Those two things go together. And League of Legends pro play is very similar. And so if you're wondering why we care about pro play, it's because a large number of League of Legends average players like pro play and care about it, and it matters to them. So it's important that pro play is in a good condition, just like everything else. Saw a short of you talking about why queuing 2 lanes is necessary for League. Wondering if there was ever plans to implement role-specific elo. Have just been burned one too many times by jungler off-rolling. Yeah, we actually quite literally did implement it and removed it because it was really bad. There was a season where we started the season with role-specific elo, meaning if you were jungle, you'd play a jungle game at your jungle elo, and if you were mid, you'd play a mid game at your mid elo. That has a lot of good outcomes. Obviously the game is going to be a lot more balanced because everybody's at the right elo given the role they've been given. The problem with that is if you ever are assigned your off role, you do not care about that game because winning that game won't matter, right? If I'm trying to get to diamond on mid and I get assigned jungle and I'm gold in jungle, that game is useless to me. It is quite literally a waste of my time because I'm trying to get to diamond on mid, right? And so road-specific elo had a pretty big issue of whenever you didn't get the role you wanted, you basically had a game that you cared not about winning, which ended up being pretty rough. And so that's one of the big issues. And so at the end of the day, role-specific elo isn't very compatible with autofill. It works a lot better if it's impossible for you to ever get roles you don't want, which then has its own set of problems.